Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here for a brand new episode of Dear Mama, You Got This. And as you know, I have an unofficial host, my son. And so you may not hear him today. If you do, don't worry about it. He might give us a little feedback when he feel like it. But we want you to know that you as a mom are rocking this today. So do me a favor. Make sure you subscribe to our page. Just follow us on social media. But beyond all that, the next 30 or 40 minutes, all about you, mom. It's all about taking care of you. So grab your favorite chair, go to your favorite corner, go sit down, grab your favorite drink. Now listen, whatever your drink is, that's between you and your drink. We listen and we don't judge. So you can do whatever makes you feel right. I have a guest host today as we dive into motherhood and dun, 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 relationships. I have Miss Mackenzi Foreman. Please give a round of applause. Miss Mackenzi Foreman is a licensed, certified, you hear that word? She's certified, y'all, social worker and prenatal mental health specialist based in Little Rock, Arkansas. She is the founder of Holding Space Counseling LLC, where she focuses on maternal, mental health, and women's issues. A proud graduate of Philander Smith University and the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. Ms. Mackenzi has been in the mental health field for 14 years, fully licensed for 10. Her passion for prenatal mental health began in 2020 at Arkansas Children's Hospital, leading to her certification in 2022. She is dedicated to advocacy and education. She believes in all birthing. She believes birthing people deserve quality maternal mental health care. Originally from Eudora, Arkansas, Mackenzi enjoys baking, traveling, and spending time with family and friends. Once again, please help me welcome Miss Mackenzi Foreman.
Hello, hello.
Yay! So I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming in.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for
let's
having
get
me.
right into it. Thank you. So let's talk about motherhood and relationships. When I say that to you, what does that immediately, like, what do you immediately think about when I say
Honestly, the
motherhood
first things
and
that come to
relationships?
mind is new baby and intimacy. Those are the top things that come to mind for me because oftentimes we don't necessarily see a shift in relationships, that big of a shift, until like after two people have a baby together. So that's kind of what immediately comes to my mind for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Have you noticed that most relationships take a hit once a child is involved, even if it's planned, even if the couple had planned for it, knew it was coming, it's not a surprise. Do you find in your expertise that a lot of times a ship
Absolutely.
takes it? And if so, why?
Honestly, I think for the birthing people that I have the honor to serve, after they have their baby, most of them, if not all of them, have expressed having difficulties in their relationship. And the reasoning behind that is that when when you have your baby, priorities shift, roles shift. And oftentimes we also don't give space to acknowledge the change. So people will operate as they always have without recognizing there's been a huge addition that added. Things look different, priorities are different, I'm different, what I see is different, and what I need is different. Oftentimes, like there's no conversation during that process of discussing the baby, whether it's a planned child or even during the pregnancy, about what our roles are going to be, what those shifts are going to be. I do believe that there is a grieving period that we don't acknowledge or accept that it's a thing that happens after you have a baby for some people. And when I talk about a grieving period, I am talking about that space where you realize that you are not the same person you were before you had that baby. And oftentimes people miss that person. They grieve that person because they don't know this new version of themselves yet. And they have to rediscover who they are within the means of their values, the means of their personality. But there's a lot of acceptance that have to happen. And I don't know if anybody's like me, but when it comes to change, I'm going to do it. But I'm going to do it kicking and screaming because I don't want to do it. But once we get to a place of acceptance, then it's like, okay, I like this new version of myself. I kind of love this new version of myself because she did something hard. She grew toes and hair. That's hard work. So
That part. That part. That part. I think you said it was really profound to me. You said you have to be able to almost like embrace the grieving, the loss of what was. I think that that's phenomenal because you don't really see it as grief. You don't really see that it's not just you, it's your whole life, right? Your whole identity. If you're someone like me who had a baby in my feet, I had 40 years of living life according to my terms and moving how I needed to move. And even something as small as recording a podcast, never had to factor in 11-month-old son with that. And so you grieve. And I never thought to think that, I
Yes.
missed her. I missed the freedom of her. I missed the get up and move and not have to really think of anything outside of what I wanted. And although I love my son, and I love the journey that we're on, I even love being married. There is a part of me that grieves the single life of
Yeah.
Trinity. And I never thought about it that way.
Absolutely.
That's
Because, and I
phenomenal
think
to
it's
me.
really important to acknowledge that there is a name for that and that name is grieving. Like we feel these things, but we hold those things inside because it's like, but if I say this out loud, that means I don't love my baby. No, ma'am. Two things exist at the same time. You can grieve your old self while absolutely being grateful and being in love with this new addition into your family. They can both exist at the same time. You do not have to pick one or the other.
That is, I mean, it's really, really, really phenomenal to me that, you think about grief,
Mhm.
you often think about somebody dying, right? But I guess in a sense, somebody, because that old Trinice is no longer, here. So that's very good to me. So let me ask a question.
Yes.
You mentioned intimacy. And a lot of times people
Mm-hmm.
equate intimacy with sex. And for me, they're different. You can definitely have sex and not have intimacy. But that's a whole other
Hold up.
podcast for a whole other day, right? We're not going to do that today. Why do you think intimacy suffers so much? Especially when, again, it's like I can kind of understand when it's like not a oops, but you really wasn't trying to get pregnant and we got pregnant, now we're having a baby. But when it's a planned pregnancy and you kind of know what's coming in 8 to 9 months, how come so many relationships suffer
Because
that
they don't
level of
think about it.
intimacy?
All they think about is this new baby coming. And even through that process, it can bring couples closer together. You don't think about what happens after you have a baby, like the fact that both of you guys are going to be sleep deprived. If you are choosing to exclusively breastfeed, that means that baby is always attached to you. So again, that becomes a barrier between you and your partner. Again, not a bad thing at all, but we do have to acknowledge that when you have a baby, that's a barrier there because everything has to happen. I mean, we were talking before we started, but the babies start to run the show. The babies run the show. They tell us what to do, when we can do it, and all those things. And
Listen,
so when that
people,
shifts happen, it's like, well, when do we have time for intimacy? Especially if there's only the idea of intimacy equaling sex. Oftentimes, when I introduce the term of intimacy or when people talk about that with me, they equate it to sex. And it's not until I offer them different ways of experiencing intimacy that they realize, like, so just because I'm not comfortable or I don't feel right having sex right now, we can still be intimate? Absolutely. Sitting on a couch, talking, holding each other. That's intimacy because when we look at what it means, it's not just a physical connection. It is emotional closeness with each other. It's like that mental connection that you have with that person. All the walls are down. There's no such thing as vulnerability. And you know about vulnerability that when you're vulnerable with somebody, there's nothing in between. It's just raw yourself. So I think that's kind of how that in my head, how that all plays together.
and I can understand that because I think that sometimes you're really
So
not taught intimacy, right? Like even when you're younger, right, and you watch a movie or whatever, you're not really taught what intimacy looks like. And for a lot of us who grew up maybe in a single family home, or our parents didn't raise us, or you don't really see intimacy, so it's
yes.
it's very very foreign. And then you take two people who grew up in two different totally environments, and what normally happens is you'll have one person who grew up in a very loving, very touchy, very affectionate
Mm.
family, and the other one didn't. So you'll have one person, aka me, who's like, "Oh, I love you, 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 I love you. Oh, I love you, I love your eyebrows, I love your hair," because
Yes.
I'm used to giving affection. But my husband's
No, I
like,
get
"Thank
it.
you."
Yeah.
Right? And it's not that he doesn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
What I had to learn It's his way of saying, I love you. It's not what I'm used to. He's a servant, right? So his way of is make sure the bills get paid. Make sure that, Zaire, our son is taken care of. That's his way of coming. But I want to hear well, we pre today, right? I
Yes.
want to hear the words of affirmation. And when we had the baby, I went right into running mode. And so for a while, I'm not going to say I ignored him, but I ignored him. And it wasn't intentional. It was more of me, my priorities shifting. And in doing so, I feel like maybe he felt neglected. And again, so then it was the added pressure of trying to now balance being a wife. We got married and pregnant pretty much the same time. We got married in August, and we had a son in September. Got pregnant in September. So within our first year, I was carrying it, and I never ever say I had a hard pregnancy, but there were some hard days, right? I had morning sickness the entire pregnancy, even to the point that literally when I'm in the hospital ready to give birth, I'm still throwing up. I had it the whole pregnancy. And so how do you ensure that especially the mom or the person who gave birth, how do you ensure that balance state, like that you don't become so mommy oriented that because the kids will eventually grow up and leave, right? He's not going to be a newborn forever. Don't you hear become a toddler, and a kid, and then a teenager, and then he'll leave the house. So what you don't want is 20 years from now going, I don't know who this man is I married. I'm not sure why I'm married. How can we, even before the baby comes, and you have what can we do to ensure that we don't lose
so
that
I think
intimacy?
one of the first things is being able to acknowledge that you've changed. When you become a mommy, you've changed. You know what I mean? And we're biologically programmed to change when we have a baby. And so being able to acknowledge that part, even with the body changes that happen and the hormonal shifts, being able to just find space to accept that or even acknowledge that. Tell a lot of the people I get to serve that when they struggle with their body image, while we're spending time with that, to me, the first thing is being able to dress for the body you have right now and being able to love this version of your body and work towards being able to do that. Especially in a Black culture, it's always that snapback. And that's not a truth. That's a whole lie. That's a whole lie. Not a thing at all. And so, one, being able to acknowledge that it's okay that you've changed because, again, you have grown a whole human being, okay? And then the other piece of it is, don't stop dating each other, Even if that's y'all staying in the house, the baby sleep. Well, I'm going to put together a cute little charcuterie board, put on some music, light some candles, and we're just going to talk. We're just going to be in each other's space. So don't stop dating each other even after the baby is here. I also recommend that even after you have the baby, being able to, one, communicate with your partner, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm feeling, as well as, again, even if you're able to carve out 10 minutes for your partner, doing that. And then the other piece is, I'm a believer in grace. Oftentimes, one of those things that kind of get in the way of intimacy is feeling like your partner's not doing their part of things and just becoming frustrated. And that's where resentment comes into play. And that affects intimacy. That affects all these things on this side. However, we have to be able to show grace because in this space, it is interchangeably. You require grace after you have a baby while you're pregnant. It's a non-negotiable.
Absolutely.
And as a culture, we know
Absolutely.
that. We know that. However, we have to think about what our partners are going through too. There's a reason why paternal depression is a thing within the perinatal community, because their whole, what they knew to be has changed. We become caregivers for our partners in some form or fashion. And then all of a sudden, they're on the back burner. And they don't talk about how that feels for them or what that's like for them because they're supposed to be strong. They're supposed to keep it together. And it's not a truth. There has to be grace. Because, again, like you talked about with your husband, his way of showing love is by serving. So making sure the bills are paid, making sure that, that you have everything you need. So those are some workloads that partners kind of have to increase on in some form of fashion. And And taking into account, like if you choose to exclusively breastfeed, that means those moments of bonding with baby have been taken away just a little bit more because again, that baby is attached to mama at all times, you know? That's part of like if you're choosing to breastfeed, there's some benefits in doing breastfeeding and teaching baby to take from a bottle because you're allowing other people, or in this case, talking about your partner or husband, to build a bond with that baby in such an important time. Because again, babies love who can feed them.
Listen, I should be like, you would think that I breastfed my son. I didn't. Literally, he
Yeah.
wouldn't take my boo. And when we finally got him to take, it felt like it was a
Yeah.
marathon, but maybe like day 3 or day 4, it was discovered that I think I did a full solid 2 days of breastfeed, I want to say. And then they found out I had pneumonia, right? And I had it like 90% in one lung, 70% in the other lung. And so I was hospitalized. And so by the time I came home, I was barely doing an ounce. And then that went up like a half an ounce. My son was for a long time
Mm-hmm.
so attached to me. Not even my husband could like pick him up without me being like, it's okay, it's okay. And even now, and I know some of it's me, right? Because like
Mm-hmm.
my son is in the bed with me, right? And so we don't have like a California king where we can all three be in the bed together. So how does a mom balance the weight of wanting to be a good mom, right? And just wanting to provide a safe space for a baby. Like I would say, I don't want my child to need therapy from the child. Like I don't want my kid to be in
Yeah.
their 20s. I need therapy from my childhood. I want my kid to say I had a great childhood, and so I may overly
Mm-hmm.
do it until that happens at the detriment of
Yeah.
maybe myself or my marriage. So my question is, how does a mom balance the way of the? How do you balance
Yeah.
really just wanting to be a good mom
Mm-hmm.
or a good parent with wanting to still be there for
Yeah.
your partner or your
That's a
husband?
really good
Like, how do you
question.
balance that?
I think, from my opinion, part of it is part of it is setting boundaries. I know they babies and they don't understand what they need, but even being able to kind of set some of those boundaries, I know a lot of mamas like they want their babies in the bed with them, but even being able to say, okay, well, I'm going to put the baby in the crib beside me so I know that my baby is still safe and right there with me, but I still get time with my partner. The other thing is sitting with yourself and trying to figure out what does it mean to be a good mother to you, because people who have a history of trauma, being a good mother is very different than people who may not have experienced as much trauma in their lives. And so understanding and being able to acknowledge, okay, am I parenting through my trauma, or am I parenting through a space that feels good for me? Like, what does it mean to be a good mother?
Wait, that was heavy for me. That was heavy. Let's tackle that. When you say
Mm-hmm.
parenting through my trauma,
Yeah.
give,
So
give me a little bit more. That was yummy to
for
me.
people who grew up in a very with a very traumatic childhood, whether them becoming an adult way before they should have ever had to become an adult, if they experienced homelessness, if they experienced abuse, if they experienced a parent that was there but really wasn't there and they had to do everything themselves, what can happen is that there's a shift that happens, and there's the thought, I never want to become my mother, and I'm going to have a baby so I can prove I can give my baby what I never received. And so that
Wow.
will absolutely get in the way of being able to allow yourself to have space from your baby, or let me say it like this, allow other people to help you with your baby. It absolutely interferes with that space, and we're not
That's
aware of it. That's why I say, like, being aware of what it means to be a good mother, because being able to share the load with someone else does not make you a bad mother. It actually makes you a good mother, because in that moment, you're acknowledging that I can prioritize myself and still love my baby because my baby is safe. And if you grew up with trauma, safety is a huge thing. We don't play about safety. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? So
mm-hmm.
I think I lost my train of thought. But ultimately,
And listen, and that's okay because that the ability, I think one thing that motherhood, and somebody when I was pregnant, somebody they said motherhood will bring out
yeah,
every insecurity you ever had. even the ones you thought you were over, or you thought like, no, I've dealt with that already. Like that was me. I've been in therapy already. I'm fine. Every insecurity, especially when it came to like my body, and when it came to me being like me, the woman was like, oh no, we don't deal with rejection anymore, and we don't, we're past that. But when my child wouldn't take to my boo, right? So in my mind,
Yep.
he's rejecting me. I'm a horrible mother, right? Like why didn't you like me, right? When I came home from the hospital, I had been gone for almost a week. My mom was there. And so my mom became like his sole, person. So he wanted who fed him, right? It wasn't that he didn't want his mom, but in my mind, oh my God, he doesn't want me the way he wants my mom. And so all of those, I've already dealt with them kind of moments. Was like, welcome back to like, but motherhood was like, wow, it was like wow. I wasn't prepared. Like I wasn't prepared.
Right.
The woman in me was not prepared. And then you add that to my husband and what his needs are. I don't have the right now. I barely have the capacity to take care of what Trinice needs. How can I then add in? But then I feel bad because I don't want him to feel like he's missing something, right? And so you said something. You said even if the date is you all doing a shooting board, I can't pronounce the word. So I said shooting board, right? And just playing music and talking in your living room. What practical things can a couple do to bring it back? I'm so sorry. He just knocked over a whole bottle of water, a whole
He said
container
what he
of water.
said.
My son did. Yeah. Yep.
He said what he said.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. And then he's totally wet.
Yes.
Totally wet. Give me 2 seconds. Listen, for those who are watching Motherhood 101 in the midst of the podcast, because he's soaked down to his socks. Yeah. But down to his socks, he's soaked. And now he's mad at me because he's wet. He was
like, how dare you? How dare you allow me to knock over this bottle that I intentionally knocked over and got wet
right there? Yes. And we got on brand new. We just got dressed today. Motherhood at its finest. Exactly, son. Exactly, son. I tell people all the time, with this podcast, when I say dear mama, I truly mean dear mama. I'm walking this thing right along with you. You will never find a more honest podcast in your life. I promise you. I'm walking this thing. He's 11 months. He going on 30. Now he calling his dad.
Because he finna tell on you.
Whether it be small things or big things to bring intimacy back into the
I love this question. The very first thing I am going to say is, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Paired app. So, small disclosure, I am a widow. I widowed too early in life, if you ask me, but I got beef with him on the other side. But one of the things that my late husband and I always made sure we did was we engaged in an app called the Paired app, where you can ask each other questions through the app. Like, you can ask the question and you can answer it, and then your partner has to answer it, but you guys see what each other answer. And that introduces so much vulnerability, because you notice the change, not from like before you had the baby till now. And sometimes you will find out so much about your husband and where their mental is that it's like, oh my gosh. But it also gives your partner a chance to say where they are. And it also gives you the opportunity to know what your partner needs. And it's such a beautiful way to reconnect. I love that app. It also has tools to use. And there are cute little quizzes that you can take to see how much you know each other.
Is it still
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is it still, can you still use it now?
In fact, like, I sometimes will download it because it still has the answers that my husband and I did. So sometimes I'll still download it and I'll read them again for that closeness to him. But it's still an app that you can download to this day. And it is such a beautiful way to connect with your partner when you don't necessarily have the time to.
I didn't even know that app existed. And for those that are watching, I promise you, I will put that app down in the in the description so you all the link for it. I'm definitely gonna try that app out myself. What can you when a couple says you don't have time? You don't have
Create
time.
the
Like,
time.
what's your response to that?
Period. Because, and this is the thing, right? And I'll just speak from the perspective of like motherhood, right? And being a wife. We automatically put ourselves at the end of that list because we're the caretakers, we're the nurse, But if I have a mother coming in and saying like, oh my gosh, I've lost myself, I don't know who I am anymore, my one piece of advice to them is create the space, whether that is you waking up earlier than you normally would, waking up before the baby does. You can wake up early before that baby does, and you can make sure you do your skincare the way you want to, have your cup of coffee. And, like it's a small price to pay sleep wise to always make sure that you remain some connection to who you are, like those core parts of you. And that's really hard to do, but the reality of it is it's very much so worth it. And that's not something you can do every day because, again, the babies run the show. So some days baby like, we ain't going to sleep tonight.
Listen, I think my son turned 11 months last week. This is him looking at it right now. See, this is what I'm talking about right here. I think last week was the first week that I wore makeup every day. And my pre-mommy life, I was a makeup artist. Traveled all over the world doing makeup. So I can do makeup, right? It was like my trademark. Like people knew about my makeup. I had a baby. It was like, makeup what?
Yep.
You put on the eyebrow? But there was a part of me that realized I missed her. I missed the glam of her. I took pride in the fact that my makeup was on. So what I do now is because of our schedule in the mornings, I do it when I get to work. I pack my makeup bag. I have a makeup work bag for makeup now. And I do it at work because I know I don't have the time in the morning, but I realize those 15 minutes or those 10 minutes that it takes me to do my makeup in the morning, needs that. Like she needs to connect with that formal part. And while I don't feel like I need makeup, the feeling that I get from wearing this, like, no, I can't lose. I fought too hard to find her, to lose her on this side of the life, or this chapter of life. And so, like you said, I had to create the space to do it. So I have my mirror at work, it lights up, like it's a whole thing. But I take those 15 minutes to do it because I need that.
I always teach the people I get to serve in this space that you are a non-negotiable, period. You are a non-negotiable.
That's good to me.
Simply because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your baby. You can't take care of your household. You can't take care of your partner in a way that feels meaningful for you. You are a non-negotiable, even when it feels like you're not. You just have to create the space to make sure that you're a non-negotiable, which is easier said than done. I always acknowledge that. But it's kind of like building a habit. It takes 60 days to build a habit.
Listen, that can be the whole show right there. I am a non-negotiable.
I keep it on I have a mirror of affirmations that got some of my favorite Bible scriptures, my manifestations for the year. But at the very end of it, and I say it every morning to myself, Mackenzi, you are a non-negotiable. That gives me permission to say no when I need to say no. It gives me permission to cancel stuff when I need to cancel it. It gives me permission to stay in the house if I want to. It gives me permission to go shopping if I want to. Why? Because I'm a non-negotiable. So if I'm not happy, ain't nobody else going to be happy if they have to encounter me.
Like that to me is a game changer. And it's not even, it doesn't have to be on big stuff. The power is 2 letters in this one word, but it's to me the most powerful word is no. And I don't have to defend my no. I don't have to explain my no. My no is just no. Whatever my reason is no. And to be comfortable, especially in motherhood, because I feel like everybody has an opinion. I don't care from the milk you buy to the bottle you use to the clothes you wear. You'll find 15 articles that says breast milk is the only way to go. You'll find 10 more that says make sure you have balance. It's like you can never do it the full right way. So you have to adapt what works for you, and you have to adapt what benefits
one of my closest friends, Jamila, she's a therapist, and she actually tagged me in your post Her favorite thing to say, and she always reminds me, is that no is a complete sentence. No is a complete sentence. And I remind myself of that very often because even saying no can feel yucky because no is a boundary. But guess what? It's a complete sentence too.
My God. My God. That part right there. No is a complete sentence. Let's take a moment. I know the reason like she is so extra. But listen, y'all, this is my therapy. Y'all understand? I started this podcast because I wanted a safe place for moms, right? I wanted to create a community where moms had a voice and the things that we deal with as moms don't overtake us and don't, make us feel like we're less than. And so a lot of the thoughts that I would have coming on these weekly podcasts, y'all think I'm doing it for y'all, I'm getting my stuff in too. And that no is a complete sentence. It's life changing for me. Okay, all right. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me get back to it. So, in closing, if you could recommend or give like your last bit of advice for a couple, what would it be when it comes to intimacy and mommy?
Communication, feeling, being able to schedule intentional time together outside of it meaning sex, whether that's planning short dates at home like we discussed earlier, being able to ask for support from the trusted friends and family you have. Now, to be fair, that is not everybody's story to have that level of support, but being able to plan short mini dates at home, you do have access for that. I'm a firm believer that if you have a baby, marital counseling needs to be right there with it because of all the shifts that happen between a partnership. And so being able to allow yourselves to like go to, that's even a level of intimacy because there's nothing more vulnerable than having a husband and a wife on my couch and the mama hearing for the first time what their partner has been feeling and experiencing, and then being able to have that conversation. It is very powerful.
Never thought in a million years to have counseling. Yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
Never thought about that. You give me a lot to chew on, which is amazing to me, and I thank you for that. But I know you have
Yes.
your own private practice in Arkansas, and so I want to take an opportunity to let our viewers know, if you're taking new clients, what you're specializing in, how they can reach you. Like give them information if they're looking, especially looking for someone who has them in mind. And the one thing that I appreciate about you is that I can see your passion for this. Like this isn't a job for you, right? Your call and your purpose, and that comes through even through the screen. Like we've never met in person because I'm literally in DC and you're in Arkansas, but I can tell just from talking to you that you are passionate about this, and this is something that means a lot to you. So I'm sure that there are some people in your area who've been looking and trying to find the resource, and now they came across this page, they came across this podcast, and they found you. So let's give them the
Okay.
information
You
to
almost made me cry there
access you.
because it really is my passion. Yeah, so I can be found at www.holdingspacecounseling.net, and there's a way to contact me through there. I am also on Psychology Today under Mackenzi T. Foreman. Simple plug, Postpartum Support International, who's the governing agency for my certification. They are also a beautiful resource for all birthing people, and they have free groups that are offered via Zoom, and it's just a wonderful resource. But they have a directory themselves, and I'm on that directory. And I think I'm on Black Girls for Therapy as a directory, or you can shoot me an email at Mackenzi at holdingspacecounseling.net, and that's Mackenzi. Let's see, how else can I be reached?
Are you on any social medias? Are you on
I'm
TikTok,
on social media, but I'm not gonna lie.
Brand?
The social media is lacking, okay? But yeah,
That's fair.
but if you feel very led to on Instagram, my handle is Kenzie the Therapist, and my social media, my Facebook social media for my business is Holding Space Counseling. Yes.
Okay, well, listen, guys, takes care of this week's episode. I hope you got something for it. I know I did. I am excited about what's happening in this community that we're creating. So do me a favor. Make sure you have subscribed. Make sure that you are following us so you get the notification when we have a new episode. Tell your friend who has a friend who has another friend who's about to have a baby. Hey, I know it's an incredible podcast that's helping to change mommy lives. We are also on Facebook with a private group called Dear Mama, got this. It's private. It's just for moms. It is our safe place to go in and say, hey, I'm having an awesome day. Hey, I'm not having a good day. But we can be free to be moms and share our hearts and not be judged for it. We're on Instagram and Mommies Matter too. We're on Threads, Mommy Matters too, and soon we'll be on TikTok. So listen, I am your host, Trinice Evans. I am a mom. As you saw in this episode, I have a very active 11-month-old son, and I'm navigating this thing called motherhood just like you are. But in case nobody told today, you absolutely rock. You are killing it. Can't nobody mama your baby but you. Can't nobody be there like you be there but you. So whatever you didn't do right yesterday, guess what? It's in the past. Keep moving forward. Mama, you got this. Until next week, it's your girl Trinice, your co-mommy. It's an amazing day. And we are so excited that you are here. See you all. Mackenzi, thank you so much for being part of the family. And I'm grateful that you came out. I promise you, I'm going to have you back. You all have a good day.